Welcome everyone to the game between Praggnanandhaa and Jan Krzysztof Duda. Prag is currently on +1 in the tournament. After his first round win, he has had 4 draws in a row, and this is the 6th round, while Duda has a -1 score right now, a handshake, and we are ready to go. Prag with the white pieces opens the game with 1 e4. And let's see what Duda responds back with. Well, it's the tournament of fighting chess. Sicilian is on the board. Prag goes knight to f3. And now knight c6 has been played a lot, where Prag has responded with the Rosolimo, but e6 is played here in order to go to the Taimanov or Khan, but c3 played, shifting into the Alapin territory. He brings his knight out to f6, and now you can see that the pawn on c3 doesn't allow the white knight to come out. Pawn to c3, he pushes the pawn to e5, attacking the knight on f6. The knight jumps to d5, and the main move here is d4. But Prag thinks for a bit and plays pawn to a3. Interesting move, because he might want to play c4, so the knight no longer can go to b4. He's taken that square under control. b6 played by Duda. c4 now makes little sense. Knight e7 perhaps is possible. He goes d4, and Duda can take now on d4. Yes, he takes pawn takes pawn, and pawn takes pawn is possible, but also knight takes. Yes, knight takes d4 has been played. Now the e5 square is a bit soft. The e5 pawn can be attacked with queen c7, knight c6. Duda brings his bishop out to b7. This is an incredibly strong bishop on the long diagonal. Prag, the main move here is knight d2. He plays it. He's still in his preparation, it seems. He has 1 hour 28 minutes. Duda has 1 hour 21 minutes here. And knight comes out to c6, attacking the knight on d4 and also the pawn on e5. White can bring his knight to f3, but instead takes on c6. The bishop takes the knight on c6, and now the knight can come to f3. Yes, he jumps with the knight on f3, and this knight can come to d4. He's looking at the bishop perhaps. And Duda starts to think. He goes knight e7. Very interesting move, because he wants to go to g6 and maybe threats of taking on f3 and then taking the pawn on e5. The e5 pawn could become potentially a target. He goes bishop f4. I like this move by Praggnanandhaa. He's bolstering the pawn on e5, and if knight g6, he wants to simply drop the bishop back to g3. The knight goes to f5. And one of the threats now is simply knight h4 to get rid of this very strong piece on f3. And hence a very good prophylactic move is h4 to stop that idea. Prag finds it. Excellent chess here by Prag. His advantage slowly growing now. He's played h4. Of course, winning here material. Knight takes h4 doesn't work because of rook h4 and the a8 rook hangs. So bishop e7 played, putting more pressure on the h4 pawn. You can push h5, but Prag goes bishop d3. You don't want to be winning a pawn like this as black because of queen g4 and very powerful position. So g6 played here by Duda. And now one of the moves is simply g3 to defend the pawn on h4. You are a bit worried of this bishop on c6 staring down the diagonal. So Prag takes on f5. Bishop takes f5. G takes f5 seems like a natural move here. So he takes back. And knight comes to d4, Very interesting move by Pragg. He's attacking the bishop. If you take here, rook g1 is possible to get compensation. So queen comes up to c7. And now Pragg brings his queen to h5. Very, very cool. Long castle is possible here. That could become dangerous. Also rook g8. But instead he plays bishop f6. And that's not a good move by Duda. This gives Pragg a very good position. Of course, Duda wants to take on f6. And then Duda wants Pragg to take on f6 and pick up the bishop on f4. But Pragg now has knight takes c6, an excellent move. You can't take with the queen. You lose the bishop perhaps here. So he takes back with the d pawn. And now a simple move. Queen e2 just defends everything here. But instead Pragg goes long castle. And he is feeling the wind blowing here on his side. He feels that the black king is very weak. He gives up this pawn on e5. Yes, the king is in the center. The queen is looking here. But you have to calculate carefully such positions. Especially because decisions like these are the differentiating factors between a draw and a win. So goes rook he1, attacking the queen and the e6 pawn. The pawn is pinned here. If queen f4 check, king b1, and white is clearly better here. So he goes queen f6, which is the right move. That's the best move in the position. And now Pragg needs two moves to get his thing rolling. Rook d6. But the problem is now just king e7 or just short castle. And black has solved all his problems. Yes, Duda brings his king to castling there, and Pragg now takes the pawn on c6. Yes, he does. Rook takes c6. It's incredible how at top level, one or two wrong decisions and your advantage simply withers away. Like in this case for Praggnanandhaa, he had such a good position. And now rook to c8. If rook takes rook, I'll simply take rook takes rook here. Well, Pragg now decides to, well, he's waiting here, plays his rook to d6. But this allows a sacrifice on c3. Rook takes c3 is possible, and Duda comes in. He's calculating, Pragg gets up, but rook takes c3, takes it. Boom, what a move. If b takes c3, queen takes c3, check, and the rook is hanging. So he takes back, and queen takes c3, and it is now a draw because king d1 is forced. The rook was hanging. Queen a1 check is very important here, because if queen b3, the king goes to e2, queen a1. And if king e2, you have queen e5 check, picking up the rook. If king d2, you have queen b2 check. If he goes on the third rank, you can take this pawn and pick up the rook. So king e2 played by Pragg. And Duda now has to play queen e5 check. He gives a check. Pragg comes back, king f1. The rook is taken, and now Pragg is 2 pawns down, but he has a perpetual here. Queen check, king h8, check, king g8, check here, king h8, another check. Already threefold repetition, guys. I guess maybe not. And now I guess the third check, and Pragg says to the arbiter, I'm going to give this check. The Clock is paused, queen g5, and it's a draw. Well, Pragg can be a little bit upset with the result of this game because he had his chances, his opening worked out, he got a good position, but maybe this decision of long castle instead of queen e2 was a bit too rash. It did look promising with the black king in the center, but all that it took for Duda to castle was one move. And well, Pragg still on +1 in this tournament, trailing Fabiano Caruana by half a point. He will be looking for that one win to equalize the scores.